Most important thing that we can start to become conscious of within ourselves and within other people is unhealed childhood trauma. Specifically, the kind of environment we were in as children and how that's going to play an unconscious role in our decision makings and in how we think, how we feel, how we act. It also has a really instrumental impact on the kinds of people we tolerate in our lives. And there's one really big overarching theme in a lot of disorders that we really need to take note of. Yo, it's your friendly neighborhood knucklehead, and in this video, I want to talk specifically about something called adult child syndrome. Now, this is something that's starting to become more and more popular. All of these psychological labels are starting to get thrown around as keywords in social media, in content, but really it's a lot about spreading awareness as to why we're doing the things that we're doing, how we get ourselves in certain situations or certain relationships, whatever in our personal life, and what to see in other people that maybe we might need to steer clear from. So what is adult child syndrome and why am I even bringing this up? Well, for one, adult child syndrome is sort of when a grown adult is sort of faking adulthood. It's almost like they're wearing a mask of being an adult, but really deep down inside, there's a child puppeteer that's pulling all of the strings unconsciously to lead to weird, immature, or different, distinct behavior patterns. And now this inner child is kind of like locked in the basement and it searches for ways to come out. And it will come out when we start drinking, it'll come out when we start doing certain kinds of behaviors. It also will come out in ways that we're not conscious of. So where is this all coming from? Well, how I've come to understand it is when we have certain parental roles in our lives as child, it causes us to learn to respond to them in certain ways. And specifically, adult child syndrome is coming from when we have abusive parents or addict parents or alcoholic parents or workaholic parents that aren't present. Parents that have certain disorders like narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, or even parents that are just depressed. They're not present mentally or emotionally. Parents that'll abusively, emotionally neglect their kids. Now, there can be some real big incidents of traumatic events that happen in our lives as children, or it can be a prolonged exposure of these things in lesser intensities. But all of it culminates into what we normalize as kids. And I have worked in schools for 10 years almost and worked with kids very closely, and children almost always normalize everything. Everything in their life to them is completely normal because they don't really know any better. They don't know how things are supposed to be, what their parents should say, what they shouldn't say. They just know that they have feelings and they look up to their parents on what to do with those feelings, and they observe their parents on how they deal with certain things. So as children, we pretty much are just learning machines, and the number one thing that we use to program those machines is how our parents act, how they feel, and what they say. And now I'm gonna put a link in the description for more information on this whole adult child syndrome thing. But basically, when you're in these kinds of environments growing up, there's kind of two ways that the adult child starts to split. So for one way is when the adult child starts to identify with the abusive parent. And that's that's when they pick up on those kinds of qualities and embody them with themselves. They start to model that kind of behavior in different immature ways. And as that personality starts to develop over time into your teenage years, into your 20s, your 30s, if it goes completely unchecked, what blooms and blossoms out of that is somebody that's likely to be very manipulative, very impulsive, very attention seeking, somebody that's really looking on the outside for satisfaction. There's not a lot internally safe, so they look for outside indicators to make them safe. This kind of leads to more narcissistic types of adult children, people that are overstepping boundaries, people are very, very, attention seeking. And the flip side of that is the adult child that is more codependent. They're the ones that are gonna have lower senses of self-esteem. They're the ones that are, they struggle to express themselves emotionally. They have like self-sabotaging tendencies. They put other people's needs before their own. And they really think the only way for them to feel safe is if everyone around them is all good first. And that's the side that's more internalizing everything. Everything is about them and they must feel bad about it. And both sides to these all stem from the same thing, which is having a deep abandonment wound. Both sides are looking in different ways on how to feel safe from feeling abandoned. And so as artists and as creative people, a lot of us will fall into one of these categories in one way or another. And the real way to pull us out of these things is when we start to become conscious of these qualities. I really found myself on the adaptive side of being an adult child. I was really putting other people's needs before myself in order to feel safe. And it is kind of a manipulative thing because you're really learning how to be safe within yourself by making sure someone else was good. And for more on what I went through specifically, at the end of this video, I'm gonna put a link to my vlog series, which you can see the very beginning to even where I'm at now with my journey of healing and becoming aware of these things. So how do we know whether or not we're dealing with an adult child or whether or not we are an adult child ourselves? Well, a big indicator is probably maturity. And a big indicator of maturity is someone that learns from mistakes or past behaviors. Somebody that isn't repeating something in a cycle over and over and over again. So if I go out and I get really, really hammered and I get sick and, I have to call out of work or something, like I have a really bad day and I tell myself, man, I really can't stay out till 4 a.m. and then the next weekend I go out and do it again, that's a sign of immaturity. I'm not learning from my behaviors. That's a big sign of an adult child. Somebody that habitually indulges in destructive behaviors, whether it's substance abuse or even something as being super promiscuous, is really childish. It's really something that questions, where is this kind of behavior coming from? And now ultimately what we as adult children do is we'll just spiral and spiral and spiral in these cycles until we eventually hit a rock bottom or we have some crazy moment of clarity. And those are the real indicators that maybe we should start thinking about things differently. Maybe we need to start changing our lifestyle up. And it's such a shame because we're not taught how to heal. We really aren't. We have to go out there and figure that out. It doesn't mean we have to be totally alone, and in fact, we really can't. We have to learn from other people, especially experts, therapists, psychologists, and things like that, but nobody is going to do it for us. Yeah, there's interventions and stuff like that, but those are not successful if somebody doesn't want to do it. And then ultimately, it begs the question, If you have a friend or a partner or a family member or a parent that is spiraling, that is in these kinds of immature cycles, at what point do you realize, wow, their presence in my life is not really making it better? What indicator are they going to need for them to pull themselves out of it? Because a lot of times what we as artists can do, and as creative people, we can really empathize. We give people the benefit of the doubt. We give them one more chance. We do this, that, and the third to make sure that they're all good because we have those sensitive, empathic qualities. But really, it could just be enabling someone else to continue that kind of behavior. So if you've already had maybe one of these rock bottom moments, and I sure have, and I talk about this a lot, but shoot me a comment below and really get vulnerable. What are some ways that someone else can learn from your experience? And if you're in this kind of situation with somebody right now, take this video and this moment as a sign that maybe something needs to happen. Maybe your own intervention with yourself needs to take place. Maybe you need to get real with that other person or yourself. Use this video as a sign that maybe I need some help. As the months and the years go by and as more and more traumatic events start to happen, things are either going to be moving in a positive direction for us or they're going to be moving in a negative direction for us. Our inner child is going to need to be healed no matter what. Better sooner than later. And like I said before, I'm gonna put my vlog series right here so you can actually see the healing path that I've been on personally, trying to take my rock bottom of last year into a positive direction. And also up here, I'm gonna put a video about taking ownership and really turning your life around if you are in a negative place right now. And I'll talk about some ways that I did that in this video up here. And lastly, I'm gonna put another video, and this is gonna be the biggest red flag that you can see in somebody if you're starting to figure out, man, what are the qualities that I should be avoiding with other people these days? As always, thank you so much for watching and stay creative.